Hello everyone, Charlotte here. This is part 2, as promised, of our wild strawberry feature this week on What's in Bloom. And in part 2, I'm going to be showing you how to identify the Indian strawberry, which is a non-native look-alike to our native strawberry, Fragaria virginiana, which I showed you how to identify in the last video. So, one thing that's the most obvious difference between the two is their flowers. The Indian mock strawberry, which the scientific name I'll put in the little caption, it has a couple different scientific names, and I don't know how to pronounce them. It's Duchesnea or Duchesnea indica, or Potentilla indica. So I'll spell it out for you. But the most obvious difference between the two is the non-native Indian strawberry has yellow flowers and our native one has white flowers. So if you knew nothing else and you found them growing around you, that would be one really good way to tell, even if you don't have your book with you. However, that being said, whenever I'm out in the field doing vegetation surveys, I always like to find more than one characteristic to differentiate plants and to really narrow down on their identification. So that's just a good practice to get into. Even if I'm like, oh yeah, yellow flower, I know what it is. It's really important to look at all of the different features of the plant in order to be 100% confident that you have the right identity. More often than not, when I'm out on a survey, the flowers are not showing. And so I have to be able to identify plants that are not in bloom and that do not have flowers. And so it's great if you can get the whole plant when it's blooming, really get to know it, get to know the structures. That way the next time you see it and it doesn't have flowers, you're still familiar with the leaves, you're familiar with the growth, and you may not be 100% certain because the flowers really help with a lot of identification and with certainty of identification, but it can get you pretty close. So let's look at the plant. So if we can zoom in, it's not the best camera, but you can see, of course, the yellow flower. And step one of identifying through this key is to look at the flower first and the different parts. So one of the petals is kind of broken, but we'll see that there's 5 regular parts in this flower, which is just like our native strawberry, except this one's yellow. And so we know right off the bat we're going to look at 5 regular parts, and then we're going to take a look at the leaves. So that's the second thing that we want to do. And when we narrow in, we can see the leaves look similar to our native strawberry. They are, get them on here. They are divided leaves as well, and they have 3 leaflets on this leaf. So this entire structure is the leaf, and these are the 3 leaflets. And I'm going to show you a little bit later on, side by side with our wild strawberry. You can see the leaves. There are some differences just in the way that they look. So we've determined, yes, they're divided leaves, and we want to know how they're growing. So when we look in here, it looks similar to our wild strawberry. It looks like all the leaves are growing out of the base, which they are here. So there's a lot of basal leaves coming out. But what's important to note is that we also have leaves coming out of the stem that's leading to the flower. So here's a good example. We've got a leaf coming out of here, and the flower is coming off of that same stalk. And actually I have another example here, the same thing. And then here as well, we've got multiple leaves coming off of the same stalk in an alternating pattern. So for this key, we're actually going to select alternate. If it was only basal leaves, we'd have basal leaves only, but we're going to say these leaves are also alternating along the stem. So now we have 5 regular parts, we have divided leaves, and we have alternate leaves. And so I'm going to save the time. You're going to go through find them in the key, you find the page, and you end up with Indian strawberry. And you can see there's a nice little illustration right here. It tells you a little bit about where it grows and some more characteristics about it. And I think that'll do it. We have one more little snippet that I'm going to add on where I'll show you the difference of the 2 plants side by side. Now normally I wouldn't be pulling these plants up, but this one I did get from my garden. you will probably, if you have a garden, you very likely might find it. It has a nice weedy trailing habit, and it tends to take over. So this here, as you can remember with the yellow flower, is our Indian strawberry, and then this we have here is our native strawberry, Fragaria virginiana. And you can see the flowers are different, but they're definitely strikingly similar. And then you can look at the growth habit. You see that these have the alternate leaves coming out of the stalk, leading to the flower. And alternatively, you've got these wild strawberry leaves all coming from a single base. And then the flower is up here on its own, coming out of that same base. And just get a good look at the leaves side by side. You'll notice that they definitely look very different. I mean, you can't always rely on a single specimen to tell them apart, but for the most part, they're going to be looking like this. One thing that I noticed is the leaflet on the Indian strawberry seems to come more to a point. Whereas if you look at our native, the Fragaria species, the tip of that leaflet, it actually has a much smaller little tooth than the rest of it. It doesn't seem to come out to a point the same way. Now, I don't know if that's a good indicator of identification. I don't know if that's just the specific specimens that I've been finding, but it's definitely something I noticed. But you can see how different, even just the leaves look. The shapes of the teeth at the end, around the margins of the leaflet. And there you have it. Two different species, very similar growing habits, and I really enjoyed spending some time IDing them with you. Thanks for listening.